Well, India and the United States on Tuesday signed the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, or BECA, which along with the three other agreements signed earlier, the General Security of Military Information Agreement, the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, and the Communications Compatibility and Security Agreement, make up four foundational pacts for deep military cooperation between the two countries. BECA is said to be one of the few basic deals that the United States signs with its close partners. The agreement pertains to exchange of geospatial intelligence information for use by the governments for defense and other purposes. Under the agreement, the US would exchange technical and procedural information about standardization of methods, specifications, and formats for the collection, processing, and production of geointelligence information with India. In this edition of Security Scan, we will analyze military and strategic cooperation between India and the United States. Joining me on the program today are Major General Ashwini Sivaj, retired defense analyst; Shakti Sinha, Foreign Affairs Analyst and Director, Delhi School of Public Policy and Governance; and KP Nair, Strategic Analyst. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of Security Scan. Mr. Nair, I'd like to begin the program with you first. Let's try and understand and analyze what BECA, or the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement, is, and what are three of the other foundational defense agreements, and what does it mean for India and the United States? Mr. Nair, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you now. Yeah. Well, BECA is essentially aimed at sharing geostatic information. It helps communication between the two military establishments. Then, of course, there are the other foundational agreements on which there's been a lot of discussion. But I would like to mention one agreement which we signed, which appears to have gone into oblivion. And actually, that is the foundational agreement of all the foundational agreements. It was the end user verification agreement, which was the first agreement we signed. Probably because it was the first agreement that we signed, nobody talks about it. It is now taken for granted, you see, because, when negotiating the end user verification agreement, there were a lot of objections from the Indian side. It was the first agreement, and there were complaints that it may lead to compromise of our strategic independence and sovereignty and all that. But what gives me confidence about India's defense relationship with the US is that we completely redid the end user verification agreement. You see, the US agreed to make a lot of changes that we wanted to suit Indian concerns, to assuage Indian concerns. And the fact that the Americans agreed to make those changes, they normally don't do, you see, because they say these are foundational agreements. Leave it, take it or leave it, but they accommodated us, you see, and we signed the agreement, and I think that gave us greater confidence in order to go ahead with the other agreements. And when we signed the what is known as the LEMOA, again, the same thing happened, you see. So, because LEMOA is actually a variation of the original American logistic support agreement. We had reservations about some of the aspects of the logistic support agreement, LSA. So again, the Americans accommodated us, you see, and the new version, the version that was acceptable to us of LSA, is what came to be known as the Logistic Exchange Memorandum Agreement, which we signed, you see. So it is a kind of progression that both sides are now comfortable with, which was why when we came to signing BECA, there was less bickering, there was no argument, there were no disputes. And having signed these agreements now, I think we are in a position to move forward, move further in relation to military and security cooperation with the US.
Right, absolutely. All right, so we'll talk a little more about military and strategic cooperation between the two countries ahead in the program as well. I'll come back to you on, the entire gamut of the relationship. But General, let me bring you into the picture now. From a defense and a security point of view, how important are these four agreements? What is it that our defense capabilities, how do they improve, and what does it mean for us?
Frank, there's no doubt these are the four foundational agreements which were to be signed, and now they all have been signed. The first one was the GSO-MIA, that is a General Security of Military Information Agreement, which was signed in 2002, and then was signed the LEMU, Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, which was signed in 2016, and that is the time when we also became a major defense partner with the US. The US signed that also. In 2018, we signed COMCASA, Communication Compatibility and Security Agreement. And now we have signed the BECA, the Basic Exchange and Cooperation Agreement. So this has been signed now. So after these four agreements have been signed, we and US have become a strategic partner. All these sort of agreement has given edge to us. Now we can, as far as BECA is concerned, first let me clear that by signing a BECA, you can get a geospatial map information, which will able to give you a classified information of satellite and sensor. This improves your accuracy of your missiles and intercontinental ballistic missile. Therefore, what it says is that by having these BECA signing now, your potential of and capability of hitting your target have increased manifold. This is the strength of this BECA, and this classified information, which is either through satellite or sensor, is not shared by US to countries other than NATO. So therefore, this is a game changer. It's a force multiplier with BECA. Now comes the COMCASA, which we signed in 2018. Again, it gives us, that you can also have a sort of a system, communication system, which is foolproof, and both the countries can utilize each other. This thing, our ships, our aircrafts can utilize this. We have taken number of platforms from US. There are basically C-17, C-13J, Hercules, then Chinook helicopter, Apache. You need a interoperability and communication network. So this has COMCASA is a secure communication between India and US. That is also again not shared by many. Then in 2016 was Logistic Exchange Memorandum of Agreement. Now this gives us added facility that both these countries can utilize the port facility of each other in terms of their, it can be that repair, maintenance, and even refueling capability, not only in our own ports, also ports which are basically taken by each other in Indo-Pacific region. So that was a very important thing. And fourth one, the first one which we signed in 2002, that was GSO-MIA. Basically General Security of Military Information Agreement. It was basically, every time it was realized that whatever the US is sharing with us, how secure that information is. I hope that information is not passed to, countries which are not the friend of US. So this was very important. Understanding was reached between US and India, and this became a foundation of the foundational agreement. And afterward, they realized it, that India is a strategic partner. India is a dependent partner. India is a reliable partner. And that's why these four in series have been signed one after the other. Now, by signing this last one, the BECA, it is a game changer because it improves our accuracy to quite an extent. Now, for example, if your intercontinental missiles you have to utilize, let's say there is a war between India and China, the accuracy of these weapon system and platform will be of a manifold. That is what it is. And you will be able to get information about, Chinese Navy submarines operating in Indo-Pacific Ocean. The information, artificial intelligence, and also the surveillance capability has increased manifold by signing the BECA.
Okay, points taken, Mr. Sinha. Let me bring you to the picture now. So, as far as these agreements are concerned, the first foundational agreement was signed in 2002 during Prime Minister Vajpayee's regime at that point in time, and after that we saw a brief lull in any of these kind of agreements being signed. Suddenly we've seen hectic activity over the last 4 years as well, between 2016 and 2020. Three very crucial agreements have been signed. So what does this say about the relationship as a whole, defense relationship as a whole?
Actually, it says a lot, because all these foundation agreements that you mentioned, and in addition, that agreement, the second agreement signed, the end-user monetary agreement, they basically have led to a developing of relationship, reacting to the changing circumstances of the Indo-Pacific. Let us be very clear. Countries come to such agreements and other agreements based on shared perception. What both of us have seen is certain developments happening in this region, specifically the way the People's Republic of China has risen aggressively in violation of rules-based order and as a threat to the sovereignty of other countries, physical sovereignty and the economic sovereignty of other countries. And therefore, this forces countries to change the stated positions and to move beyond them and evolve. And I think it is in the interest of both our countries and others, Japan, Australia, actually even South Korea, Indonesia, etc., to move to reach a situation where we are able to ensure that our sovereignties are protected and the rules-based order, which recognizes all countries as equal following the same rules, that is retained and that is maintained. That is of great threat to us. Otherwise, if we lose it out, so each of us cannot fight everybody. And therefore, the need for India and the USA as two very important countries. See, India's position, geographical position, the heart of the Indian Ocean, very important location in terms of the world trading routes, the oil routes, etc. The USA as being a predominant player in the region, not just in the Pacific, but even in the Western Pacific and even in the Indian Ocean. We have to recognize their military presence there. And if both of us agree to the changing circumstances are not in our favor of our interest, then the need for these two countries to come together and develop these agreements which allow interoperability, thanks to COMCASA, which allows real time. So you fire a missile or a drone, you're able in real time to change its positioning where it should hit. It's like taking a GPS from my home to my office. I take a route and then I find the road is blocked. So I change my route. BECA allows that. So, we are no options, the two countries, but to move in this direction because we share values, we share interests. And when these converge, then you need to step up your partnerships. These are partnerships at the end of the day to ensure a more stable Indo-Pacific.
Right. Okay. Taking the discussion forward now. So, Mr. Nair, the defense and security relationship between India and the United States is not just limited to these 4 agreements, isn't it? It's much bigger and much wider than that.
Yeah, yes, indeed. Actually, thank you for asking this question, Frank, because I want to go beyond these agreements and dwell a little bit on the broad framework of the military and strategic agreement between India and the United States. You see, it was, first of all, it has taken 15 years for us to get here because we signed the US-India Defense Framework Plan 15 years ago. And Shakti will remember, of course, that when Prime Minister Vajpayee went to Washington, they first proposed that India will have a liaison officer stationed at the Central Command, the CENTCOM. Actually, we should belong to the CENTCOM because CENTCOM is what in the American system from Pakistan all the way to Africa, to Kenya and beyond. it is dealt with by CENTCOM. But we were never part of the CENTCOM. I don't want to go into why, because of shortage of time. But we were always put in PACOM, the Pacific Command, where we don't belong. So when Prime Minister Vajpayee was in Washington, they proposed that for the first time we will have a person in CENTCOM. Then nothing happened, you know. I mean, it just agreed and then nothing happened. But today, how far we have come. I mean, we have a relationship with the Pacific Command now, but more than that, our liaison officer is in Bahrain at the U.S. Navy's Central Command, NAVCENT. The liaison officer is there. That means, you know, Bahrain, that region is probably the most volatile today because of Iran and U.S. conflict with U.S. and, you know, Israel, Lebanon, everything then. And it is NAVCENT which deals with these. So in the most volatile region of the world for navies, where the American presence is intense, we are now a part of that. So that is how far we have come. And similarly, the Indian Navy established the Information Fusion Center for the Indian Ocean region, IFC IEOR. And, you know, as Shakti mentioned, you know, the Indian Ocean region is so crucial for us, for our bread and butter. I mean, 75% of maritime trade in the world passes through the Indian Ocean region. 50% of the global oil movement passes through the Indian Ocean region. And that protection and sharing of information about this very critical region was the reason why the Indian Navy set up the IFC IOR. And the Americans are now part of it. Just as we are in NAVCENT, the Americans now will have a liaison officer at this information center. Right. And you know, many U.S. allies are not in this situation. Now we are associated with the Central Command and with the Pacific Command, you see. And the Pacific Command is again crucial for us, you know, not as crucial as the Central Command, but in the broad picture. So we have come to, I mean, when we talk about Indo-US military relationship, people usually tend to talk about arms sales and, you know, the transactional things. But we have gone far, far beyond that, you know. Not sure. That those are no longer relevant. For instance, DTTI, the Defense Technology and Trade Initiative, the latest 2+2 meeting decided that pending programs under DTTI will be speeded up, that the framework will be expanded and operationalized. So now you have a holistic view of the defense and security relationship with which both countries have acknowledged.
Absolutely. So, General, let's talk about the level of collaboration and cooperation then between the two countries as far as defense, security, and strategic issues are concerned.
See, Frank, first of all, the first thing which comes when we say that the cooperation and collaboration is what is happening a Quad. Now, with the 4 countries coming together, Indo-Pacific, that is India, US, Japan, and Australia, to have a freedom of navigation and rule-based order in Indo-Pacific. These 4 countries have made a lot of difference. You remember in 2007, informal alliance was formed. But this did not take on because the point was the country like Australia, country like Japan did not want to antagonize China. And India also was a hesitant partner. But this exercise we started taking place between India and US called Malabar. And thereafter, Japan also became part of in 2017. Now, This year we have invited Australia, and Australia has agreed, and this time the Malabar exercise will have all 4 countries which are the component of Quad, that is US, Australia, India and Japan. Now the relations are now becoming stronger day by day between India, US and all the 4 Quad partners. And we are talking about not only Quad, Quad plus in time to come, which will have a South Korea, New Zealand and Vietnam also. Now this is all required because the hegemony and the expansion attitude of the China, you have to challenge. Indo-Pacific is too large an area. India will not able to handle itself. It needs strategic partner. And there is a strategic partner in terms of US and the Quad. Now, everyone is saying, is a Quad a military alliance? Is a Quad like Asian NATO, which Chinese are trying to convey? Possibly not so far, because it will all depend if the China will put pressure and try to take Taiwan with by force, or also put pressure in South China Sea. The Quad will become reality. It will be more formalized, and there may be some military alliance coming in future. That is also a fact, because it all depends what sort of attitude is sort of shown by China. If China is going out of way and trying to annex Taiwan, or try to take the islands by force in South China Sea, then this will become a reality. Now, other things which are happening between India and US specifically are that number of exercises are being conducted. There is a called Yudh Parihar, which will be taking between Indian Army and US Army, then Vajra Parhar. Then there are, number of other exercises where both the countries are becoming a partner. So that major defense partner, which was being nominated in 2016, it is showing now the impact and effect on the ground. Now, as far as the weapon system are concerned, we were purchasing almost 70% and above weapon system from Russia. And we were only purchasing about 5 to 7% from US. As the time is passing on, especially after 2010, you will find that percentage is gone almost about 20% from US, and you have bought certain strategic weapon, and the US has now come forward and given you the state-of-art weapon, whether it is C-17 Glowmaster, C-13J Hercules, then it is a Chinook helicopter, and then Apache attack helicopter, and then M777 ultralight Howitzer, which is the state-of-art RT system, which can be lifted from one valley to another by Chinook helicopter. So they have gone out of way to take care of our requirement. Now they are offering us another 2-3 weapon systems, which one is Q9, that is a armed drone. But we wanted, they are also offering us F-18, but they are still not offering us F-35. We are now want that F-35 should be given to us, but they are hesitant to give us because they are saying that you have bought S-400, which is an air defense system from Russia. Possibly there is a hesitation on the part of American. But we are trying to bring out, we are not going to buy F-15, which is an improved version of F-16. We are not looking for an aircraft only for next 4 or 5 years. We are looking for an aircraft which is for next about 30 to 40 years. And hence, we will like to have F-35 or any improved version. But this talk is going on. There is a better understanding between US and India. The strategic partnership is increasing. And this is showing result. Also, when there is a sort of face-off between India and China in Ladakh. We know if there is a war between India and China, India has to fight its own war. But American can give you a lot of support in terms of material support, in terms of intelligence, in terms of artificial intelligence and surveillance. And that is what it is coming in. Then in future, our cooperation between India and America is growing, and it will make a more you can say in Indo-Pacific, it will be a more safe, it will be free, open, and it will be a rule-based sort of this thing where territorial integrity, sovereignty of the all nations will be recognized. The disputes will be resolved by peaceful means by all the countries, and US and India partnership is there to stay for long.
Okay, all right. So, Mr. Sinha, let's get concluding remarks from you on the best way forward, and also where are the defense ties between the two nations headed?
Frank, it's a very interesting point you raised here because, defense ties are very important. Many of them have been mentioned. I'll just add a few. But also, we should look at the overall relationship between our two countries. There are many issues that we have to do together where we have differences and where we have commonalities, and how do you develop your partnership greatly. Now, on defense, obviously, we have talked about joint development of new platforms, particularly the new aircraft carrier. These are things we really need to work hard. India has a decent record of ship designing. If you look at our history of the last few decades, we've done a very decent job of it. But now we need to move on to a higher plane, and that's where the US partnership will really help you. If you look at things like cyber, I think this is the real future where threats, where really we are doing our best. We have started moving a lot, but we still have a long way to go. If you look at the number of hacking attacks on our systems, our vulnerabilities, I think this is something, again, where India and the USA have inherent strengths as open societies, but inherent weaknesses because we are open societies. And therefore, the need, again, to collaborate on improving your firewalls, improving your systems, but yet not infringing on human liberties. I would also look at things like joint work in the field of science and technology, say energy as an example, with petroleum not being a viable substitute. You have to get out of